It is now day 34 of our 1000 Dawns, ladies and gentlemen. And, well, may as well, it's that time of the day again. Another day gone. However, let's start today's talks by a little bit about what happened last night. Now, last night I explained how I kind of felt that I was under a little bit of social pressure to join in, to save face, and to pretend that I was all right being there. Mind you, on one hand, considering it was being paid for by the efforts of where I work, part of me thinks is that I should maybe in some way feel a bit more grateful. Still, it's just one of those things, and you can't get blood out of a stone, and you can't force somebody to be appreciative if they genuinely have no interest or don't see the value in it. Sad as it may seem, but that's just a little bit of, the reality of things. Now, speaking of the reality of things, I feel as if this might be the first time, and probably, hopefully, it's going to be the last time I mention this, that if it wasn't obvious before, I am on the autism spectrum, but at the same time, but here's the biggest thing with this. People have said, well, I've been told by professionals that and by people close to me that I'm only just on the spectrum, as in they consider it a mild form of ASD. The problem with this, however, is that whether it's mild or in its most extreme form, I'm still on it because it makes no difference. However, not that I've ever used this as an excuse before, and to be honest, if I suffer from social anxiety from time to time, once again, it's only because sometimes I get told I have to be in A when I'd rather be at B, if that makes sense. In regards to work, however, this is sort of a little bit out of the question because the mental adjustments made, and because at the end of the day, I get paid to work. I don't get paid to argue and try to argue the toss about having it my way or the other. It doesn't work like that. But I will also be remiss to mention, ladies and gentlemen, is that I am still, even though my first shift is on Monday night, I am very, very nervous about the whole affair. It's not so much that I'm nervous about making mistakes. Everybody, even the most experienced dealer who has worked over 30 years on the pits, will make a mistake in front of a customer sooner or later. My problem, however, is that, well, my problem is so much about making mistakes, but rather I will say the wrong thing whilst doing the right thing, and I just make myself look stupid for no reason. And yes, for those who don't know, is that it's mostly, in gaming and stuff like that is what I work in. And yeah, this is technically my second time around working in gaming. And I did make an awful lot of blunders my first time around, but this is a slightly different environment. And it's a slightly different job I'm doing anyway. So there's just the thought of, if I do make a mistake, one, acknowledge where you went wrong, I'll agree with my CADs and my supervisor, and just get on with it. And more importantly, apologize to the customer. I think, deep down inside, not that I've ever had to be told this, but I think in some way, if nothing else, apologizing to somebody admits two things. One, that you acknowledge that the mistake was completely my own, and therefore they should not have to feel in any way guilty for putting me under pressure or think they were asking too much of me. And second is that, probably, again, in this sort of line of work, I think it shows a tremendous amount of maturity that you admit your mistakes when you do get things wrong, because people will get things wrong. We're human. It's going to happen. Just apologize, be sincere, because believe you me, I can become very, very pious when I apologize to people. But assuming that's that and everything is sorted, honor is once again satisfied, then there shouldn't be an issue. whilst all that's well and good, don't take the mick with it. And I know fine well that even if it was a completely genuine, like something like habit, don't get into a habit of just making the same ones over and over again, because that's what starts getting people noticed, and it starts getting your cads pissed off with you. And even if you're starting this line of work relatively green in terms of doing things like roulette, blackjack, free card poker, etc., guess what? They'll still look at you in the same way. And listen, again, I've been on an academy with at least 3 other people, and some of them are experienced enough to know fine well that they're not going to be nearly as generous. Some customers will be more generous and more sympathetic than others. And I also found this out in both degrees previously while I was working in gaming. But the second thing as well is that if you think some of the customers will be unforgiving, some of the CADs, the supervisors, the casino manager, the gaming manager, all of those people, I think they'll be even less forgiving after a while. They won't be like that immediately, but at the same time, I think because of what I understand about where I'm working, is that I think they understand because of the way that rotas are like devised and set up, that they know what degrees to take with people. It's a little bit more of an unsaid, unconditional sort of thing. And I've grasped onto the idea that, yeah, you know what? For me, I think they've taken the opinion of, we're just going to do this slowly, one step at a time. And I have not got an issue with that whatsoever. Or maybe it's not like that at all, and it's just, we have decided, therefore you'll be doing this date, so you'll be doing that date. Maybe the thing about being conscientious or being, a mutual understanding, maybe that plays no factor into this whatsoever, so they just do it like that. Maybe not. But we'll wait and see. And whether or not that makes any sort of difference whatsoever, we'll just have to wait and see. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, there's currently I'm on about 32 hours a week, and I think what's going to happen is up until about maybe July, I'll stay on 32 hours, and then I'll request to be moved up to 40, because right now I just sort of want to get enough experience where I think 40 hours is not going to prove an issue. I'm admitting to that myself, that even I acknowledge I have got to go about this slowly. And I think once you start doing things slowly, you can start to get into a rhythm, and you just relax and get on with it. Because I know, because I'm not the only croupier who must have been new. All croupiers have to have been new at some point, and probably even greener than I am. At the same time, however, I've got a job to do. And my job is as it is. But with all that being said, I still think, you know what, if I just because listen, during my time in training, I have actually been on blackjack 5 times, dealing live games, and honestly, they were good. And after a while, you stopped beginning to think there was a CAD breathing down your neck and literally scrutinizing every single card pull, every single payout, and every single move I made, from every single time I glanced at the card, to putting it in the discard, to taking in bets and paying them out again. The art of blackjack, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely in the payouts. Yeah, I know that for certain. However, you can't also lose sight of the thought of people close by keeping an eye on you. Now, I knew this, again, when I worked in gaming previously, but it's one of those things you can't really afford to remove, if you will, from your point of reference, because it's just there to make sure that you're not doing anything untoward, you're not taking the mick, and that other people aside are not taking the mick either. It's purely more of a security standpoint more than anything else. And with all that being said, well, because it is Friday night and I'm planning on heading out anyway, you know what? This is the greatest opportunity to be brave, ladies and gentlemen, and to just understand that, well, I plan on keeping this going for as long as I can. If this goes any further than 5 years, then you know what? I'll stick to it, because that's probably by the time my PFL runs out anyway. But even by that point, I want to be able to work in Las Vegas by that time. To be able to work in Caesar's Palace is probably the sole ambition I've had since I've been involved in gaming. But that's still a very long time away. But until then, I will see all of you guys again next time. Thank you.